Hi everyone, today let's talk about LULU, as well as the economic calendars, then we'll get into the charts, then we'll look at my results for the day and my thoughts going into tomorrow's session. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day that the markets are open as well as Sundays, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So Lululemon shares are rallying as they did finally get notified that they are going to be accepted into the S&P 500. They are going to replace Activision Blizzard, which was just acquired by Microsoft. That got fully accepted here recently, and now that leaves a slot in the S&Ps, and Lulu is going to fill that, and the stock jumped more than 10% to an almost 2-year high, and we'll take a look at those charts later in the episode. Moving over to the economic calendar, basically nothing on for the day. New York State manufacturing, a little bit better than expected, it says here, slightly less negative than the forecast. And then for tomorrow, we got retail sales at 8:30. That's going to be interesting. And then later in the day, we have the federal budget expected to be slightly negative. Moving over to earnings just for a moment. Just Charles Schwab here for the day that was relevant. Beat on the bottom line, missed on the top. Not by much, not terrible. Looking at tomorrow, we got a couple big names, J&J, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, obviously going to be big ones. Then you got United Airlines, banks in the morning, and then United Airlines after hours tomorrow. Moving over to Max Pain, you can see we jumped almost to 4 million options on the week. Put call ratio right around that 2 level. Max Pain sitting at 431. We jumped all the way to 436 today. That was a little bit higher than I thought we would jump. We're still watching this 430 to 440 range. I don't really think we're going to get outside of that. You can see right now we're just above this dip here on calls. 437 to 438 does make sense. Again, call wall here at 440, not expecting to finish the week above 440. Doesn't mean we can't rally into this range at least a little bit in the midweek, certainly possible, but I would expect at least a little bit of a pullback into the Friday session. Moving over to the charts, starting off with the S&Ps here, you can see we rallied up basically throughout the day, gapped higher, rallied up aggressively in that first couple of hours, and then we chopped sideways for basically the whole afternoon session, just above my level here at 435.88. Next level for me, 439.98. You got the 55 EMA sitting in that 441 area, and then trend resistance sitting up around 443, 444, right in that same zone. In terms of structure, you can see we are still in this flag. That upper bound, like we talked about, 444, gives us a little bit of room to the upside, might find resistance at that 55 EMA. Bullish momentum, bullish RSI, and this move here today tells me that we're going to be going a little bit higher. The Thursday and Friday sessions were just a slight pullback, hit that 144 EMA, and now we've rallied above resistance, looking for that next resistance, about another 1% higher or so. Moving over to the Qs here on the hour and the daily, you can see similar thesis. Big rally up, sideways chop, just below my level here at 370. You want to see it get above that, rally up to 372.85, certainly possible. Momentum starting to fade a little bit on the hourly chart, but RSI still bullish. Didn't get overbought conditions on the shorter time frame. In terms of structure on the daily chart, you can see we rallied up, back tested that level on that trend line, and now we've bounced from there, holding that 9 EMA. And moving over to the Qs daily chart, you can see that same trend line, back tested it, rallied up from that level. Do have some overhead resistance up around 375. Certainly could get into that range again, about 1.5% higher, which you would expect the NASDAQ to move a little bit more than the SPY. Makes sense. Bullish momentum, bullish RSI. Everything still looks clean here. You'll also notice this is the highly traded zone. You really want to see it get above that and hold if we are going to see a breakout on this flag type setup. I'm not sure that that's going to happen on this retest, but it is something that you do have to pay attention to. Everything's still bullish in the short term. Moving over to Russell and the Dow, you can see the Russell gapped up and rallied on the day, up 1.62%, big rally. You can see this is a clear double bottom now here. We closed above the body of the previous candle, so that's a nice confirmation up. Bullish momentum. RSI still needs to build to get above that 50 line, and it's going to hit some resistance at the 21 and VWAP, but we already had a test here, so if we get into this zone, there's a better potential that we could break through. If we take out this midpoint, then we're looking at some clearer skies, potentially up to that 183.50 area in the highly traded zone, sitting up around 184.50. That would be a really nice move potentially here on the Russell. Dow continuing to show strength. We talked about this pulling back to that 9 EMA, ended up holding here, gapped higher, rallied, got above my 339.11 level. Basically everything you would want to see if this was going to push back up into this 55 EMA sitting at 344.26. Next level for me, 343.23. Everything looks bullish here. After this dip down, rally, higher low setup, rally continuation. Moving over to the equal weights, you can see a very similar setup to the Russell and the Dow. Basically a mix between the two. Got that big move down, tested support, rallied up. Higher low setup, more like the Dow, holding that 9 EMA. But here you can see we're above VWAP, we're above the 21 EMA, bullish momentum. RSI looking to get above that 50 line. This looks really clean here. Again, you want to see it get above 142.50. We talked about that level on the Sunday video, and then we have trend resistance at 143.70. And if those levels start to break and we start to look at that highly traded zone up around 147.50, that could absolutely start to push us to some new highs back towards this previous high up around 155. Moving over to Apple and Tesla, not everything is rosy here. Apple ending up basically flat, 0.07 to the downside. Big gap down, filled the gap, held right at that level, highly traded zone here at 178.50. Got just above my level, 178.58, and after hours we're up just 2 pennies, 178.72. So still possible that we hold this level and rally up to resistance. We're continuing to hold in this wedge, and you can see that here, multiple tests of that downtrend line. But so far we are still holding. You really want to see this break back up to those previous highs around 194. Certainly possible, but right now we are still wedging up, and you want the biggest stock in the world to be leading us to the upside if we are going to get that breakout. Looking at Tesla, a little bit better, up a little bit more than 1%. Gap down, rallied up, hit the 21 EMA. You can see that here. Still acting as resistance. We're right on top of that highly traded zone. So this could absolutely go either way. And realistically, this looks more like a pullback. 3 bear candles in a row. We were just a little bit oversold in the short term. Retested the 21, broke down from that level. Momentum, bearish. RSI, still neutral here. But structure says that we are going to be moving lower. We have a high, lower high, and this could absolutely set up a higher low, but right now this does look weak, and it's certainly possible that we take out this midpoint and break even further down on Tesla. Of course, they have earnings this week, so we'll see how that plays out. Right now, this doesn't look great in my opinion. Moving over to some of the bigger players on the day that did well, we got Broadcom throwing another wick to that all-time high resistance. 909.86 being that level, touched that level, broke down a little bit. Inside candle coming off of the big bear day on Friday. Overall, this still looks like a bullish structure. It's just an initial test that we had at those previous highs. Found a little bit of strength. Again, looks like a test of that level. As long as we kind of continue to hammer at that level, you would expect it to break out. Momentum still bullish, RSI still bullish, not overbought yet. And typically the stocks that make new 52-week highs are the ones that are right at their 52-week highs. And this looks good here for Broadcom in my opinion. Moving over to Amazon, similar setup. Inside candle, but pretty good day, 2.13%. Bullish momentum, bullish RSI. This looks pretty clean. We tested the 9 EMA on Friday on the daily chart, rallied up, got above that highly traded zone, held above 130.97. Next one for me is the 55 EMA at 134.15 and then 135.42 at these previous lows. If this area breaks though, you could absolutely see a nice push on Amazon, which would be a pretty good indicator for markets as a whole, especially from the retail perspective. Moving over to Lulu, we'll do a bonus stock here. You can see massive gap up. This is the weekly chart. So we finished last week right around this 378 area, gapped all the way up here to 402, and then rallied up to 417. Massive move, massive breakout on bullish news. Momentum ticking towards bullish on the weekly chart. Big volume on the week. You can see this previous consolidation, almost like somebody may or may not have been building a position. And then we rallied up, taking out those levels. Couple of levels we could push to. Previous all-time close is up around 473. That would be a nice move from current levels, but you have to expect that this is going to have some follow through. Lulu has a lot of momentum in terms of their ability to sell their products. They do have really good margins. It doesn't seem like they're suffering the same way other retailers are. I've been watching this stock for a while here, and this looks like an absolutely bullish opportunity on Lulu as they get accepted into the S&Ps. Moving over to staples and discretionary. Staples continuing to rally. We talked about this being a double bottom after the rally on Friday. Sure enough, we got a continuation here. Still need to take out this midpoint right around that 67.50 area. You also have the 55 EMA sitting at 67.77, but bullish momentum, bullish RSI, you would expect this to break through. Usually that first test fails, so that is generally how I look at this. But we've already had a midpoint. Might pull back to that 21 EMA. If the 21 EMA holds, then I'm looking for a much bigger breakout. That's going to be your nice entry opportunity in my opinion. Overall, still looks pretty good. Looking at discretionaries here, bullish day coming off of this trend line that I added here today. Touch that level. You can see it was kind of established on these previous candles, but we've definitely solidified it here, touching it, rallying up, getting above that traded zone. Still need to see it get above 162. We did not quite get there. We tested it and then pulled back just slightly, but momentum ticking towards bullish. Overall, this still looks pretty good in my opinion, and then I'd be looking for a move up to that 166.78 area. Moving over to gold and utilities, we talked about gold having a massive day on Friday, 3.2%. Ended up getting an inside candle. That's not a great omen here for gold after hitting that 200 SMA at 178. Pulled back here, you would expect at least a little bit of a pullback after this massive rally from Friday the 6th all the way through Friday the 13th. Similarly here, actually on utilities, you can see we've been in this downtrend. Then we broke that downtrend line, broke all the way to that 55.11 level. And zooming out here, you can see those levels hadn't been touched going all the way back to June of 22 on utilities. Then we found some strength after multiple bottoms on the daily chart. And then we rallied all the way back up to the 21 EMA sitting at 59.98. I got a level right there at 59.95, and I do have a level right there as well, and that's basically where we stopped. At this point, you would expect at least a little bit of a pullback. Momentum is still bullish, and RSI is still bullish, but this is about a 10% move from 55 up to 60-ish, and you can see strong trend resistance, multiple tests of that trend on this down move. Still very much a downtrend, does look more like a dead cat bounce than a rally through, but it does have some good impulse, so you could look for a higher low setup off of this move. Lastly, for sectors here, we'll look at transports. You can see we had this massive down move all the way from around 267 to around 228. Massive move for transports. Huge rally up, gave it all back. Now we're testing these previous highs, and we continue to hold here. You can see we tested it on Friday, gapped up and rallied, hit the 21 EMA. Realistically, I want to see this break out a little bit, get into this 238 level, pull back, retest the 21 EMA, hold that, and then that would start to show us that bullish trend flip. We do have bullish momentum, and you can see we've had bearish momentum for a very long time. We had one candle of bullishness on 1 September, but besides that, we've been bearish going all the way back to 1 August. Massive move lower. And you can see we hit that SMA on the RSI basically to the penny, and then we bounced from that level here today, which to me looks like a solid base. Look for that breakout, retest continuation, and that could give us another indicator of more bullishness to come in markets. Moving over to breadth, as you would expect, we had a bullish day, breadth went higher, and this looks like a nice higher low setup at this point. We talked about this retest of the 9 EMA on the 200-day average. We now tested that level, pushed back up to the 21. You need to see some follow through here, get above 43.55. That would be nice, but you have bullish momentum on both. RSI on the 50-day average is bullish above that 50 level. 200-day average still has a little bit of room to go. It's still sitting at 46.24. Want to see it get above that level. Again, doesn't mean that we're going to see this immediate switch, but this has been a nice left shoulder, head, right shoulder, potentially setting up. And if we can continue this breakout, that would be a pretty good indicator that we're going to see a nice move higher on breadth, something that could last the next several months. You can see here, end of July, all the way to the lows here in October, kind of bottomed out here at this level, and it does seem like we're going to see a little bit of a run over the next few months if this bottoming formation holds. Moving over to yields, of course, that rally thesis is going to depend pretty heavily on yields, which have been pretty stagnant over the last few weeks. You can see we've had about 2 weeks of sideways price action. Similarly, here on the 10-year, about 2 weeks of movement. Same range. Still got a bullish candle on both of these. you really want to see it break down from current levels. 2-year yield holding back around that 5.1 area, 10-year sitting right around 4 3/4. I really want to see this break down below the 21, and it might take a little bit for that 21 to kind of rally up, meet current prices, and then we see that pretty significant snap down, breakdown from that level. Momentum still bearish, but 2-year yield continuing to tick towards bullish, coming off of that 55 EMA test. Doesn't look quite as weak as I would want it to yet. Moving over to the dollar, we did get that breakdown that we talked about. We said we saw this rally after the breakdown. You can see that breakdown on the daily chart. Big rally up, retest of trend. And then in today's session, we got a big bearish candle, basically straight down all the way to that 144 EMA on the hourly chart, sitting at 106.15. Very similar to that 21 EMA sitting at 106.10. Same range. You want to see it break through that area and then take out this 105.50 level. That was this previous retest here. And then you can see a follow through down to that 55 EMA around 104.50. Still bearish momentum, but this hourly momentum says we might see a little bit of a pullback. Overall, long term, still bearish, high, lower high, retest of trend, breakdown, but a little bit extended in the short term. Might see a rally up to the 21 on the hourly chart at 106.37. Moving over to volatility, move index, slight bullish day, but still continues this series of lower highs. Momentum still fading. I would expect this to break down a little bit more here. VIX doing the same thing. We saw this left shoulder head, right shoulder or double top style formation happening. And then we got a big bearish candle on today. You can see down nearly 11% off of that big wick high to that 20 level. Gap down, fell throughout the session, bearish momentum. You can see retested that SMA and broke down. And overall, this looks quite a bit weaker on the VIX than it did on the Friday session. Certainly seemed like we had a breakout and a potential move higher, but now we broke down and it does look much, much weaker after a retest of that SMA and continuing into bearish momentum. In terms of my accounts, you can see I made some adjustments with the big rally here today. IWM was up nearly $3 on the day. I rolled all the way out to 172 for $2.45 credit. I was only able to capture about half of that profit, and I'll have to wait a couple of days for the rest of that to come in if we can continue to hold this rally. Looking at the Qs, you can see I made exactly as much as I tried to, $4.13 for a $4.13 move. Really, I wanted to do a little bit better than that, and we might get a little bit of that coming in tomorrow. We'll see. I have a put here for 367 for tomorrow. I expect more bullishness in that session. And then I did sell the 368 calls for $3.64, going out 2 days here to Wednesday. And then I ended up moving out those 370s that I had out to 374, still in that same range at $1.16 credit. We basically went sideways throughout the mid-session, and I held all of these positions, waiting for a clear break one way or the other to play it a little bit more heavily. But right now, I'm basically neutralized between my shares and some puts, and then the 2 calls. Overall, still bullish going into tomorrow's session. Let me know down in the comments section what you think of Lulu. Can it continue its breakout, and how high will it go? Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I make videos like this every single day that the markets are open, as well as Sundays. And of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.